How important is corporate funding for art events?
It's the bigger play that you could have with the corporate people, or if they do get involved. Their idea of creating events is more, again, back into more of the music industries or the performing industries. The visual arts don't tend to get a lot of promotion out of the corporate events or corporate people. And but they finance a lot of things to do with the arts, and they're huge. They're absolutely huge. In Canada, I guess the performing arts account for about 80% of most of the money that's thrown around for the arts. And a lot of that's corporate funding. And that would not exist without it.
Right, yeah. That takes a whole different skill set for artists to manage that, and whether they can do it directly or through organizations.
Right.
Most art organizations, the people who manage it are also artists. That's where they started. They may have the key players, accountants, and people who know how to manage money well. But for the most part, everyone involved in the organizations comes from an artistic background.
That's what attracted them to start with.
Yeah.
Approach them and talk to them because they do understand the process. But they have guidelines they have to work with, and for you to be able to push them out of their guidelines slightly, you have to be able to come up with an idea that fascinates them.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that, whether the money comes from the municipality, city funding, or from corporations, why do people who contribute to the arts, why do they feel so good about it?
I think deep down in most people, they understand that it's something to do with their soul and their spirit, and it's way beyond just doing jobs and way beyond just raising families and going on vacation, and there's something more intrinsically valuable inside with people, and they tend to look at the arts as being the number one way that expresses that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, whenever there are budget cuts, it often comes down to arts and the cultural events of the city. It's sometimes the first thing to go, in fact. So there is a role that organizations like the IAD play when you can keep people on the same message.
Most of the funding for the arts in smaller communities tend to go to local groups.
Right. And
with local ideas, basically. And when they cut back on their funding, of course, a lot of the local things are not funded now. But if you can go to the city with an idea that correlates to what you were just saying, where you can bring more things under one umbrella, they're a lot more pleased to work with that, because it shows you have to know how to do it. They know that they're going to look good at the end.
Right.
And a lot of things they do fund, they're not sure if they're going to look good at the end of this, and then the next year they don't fund them. But when you put on an event that's worthy of that, the cities take notice and they will continue with it.
Yeah. We're in White Rock. Your gallery and studio is in White Rock, and that's where we're based. What type of lessons have you learned just managing events here through the IAD? What kind of secrets can we share with some of the people out there who are interested in doing it themselves? What would you say some of maybe the 3 key factors are in promoting a good local event and being able to attract municipal support?
Well, I think the one main thing you have to keep in mind is that when you're doing something on a local scale, you need to bring in people that the local people recognize who they are. And they could be from other areas, but they have to know who they are, because that'll bring people out to the event. And basically, you have to have it open for other people to learn at the same time, other artists that are just beginning. There has to be room for them to be involved in what's going on. It's very necessary to have the top professionals you can get in any field when you're doing something like this. Otherwise, it just becomes, like Marilyn once told me, it becomes a county fair kind of idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than a fine art event.
Yeah.
And you go for the best talent you can get, and you also bring in the new artists that are starting up. And all of them love working with other artists, and they love working with the pros because they learn something just being around them, and just success does breed success.
Yeah, definitely.
And art is one of the games in the world that's very, very tough to measure what success really is. But they know when an amateur, and I hate using that word that much, but when an amateur meets a professional, they're well aware of who that professional is.
Right.
And there's a difference. And they know it, they feel it, and they learn from that.
Mm-hmm. And the IAD can bring that level of professionalism to an event.
Which we have.
Yeah.
And that's what we strive for as well. And we put on the best shows we can possibly put on
Right.
within the area that we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we formulate it, and we set it up that way. And the cities they love the ideas.
Mm-hmm. Far in advance do you plan an important art show, something that's managed through the IAD, or I guess it can be any type of a show. It doesn't necessarily have to be IAD, but if it's an art show, how far in advance should people be planning?
Well, if you're really good at what you do, and you know a lot of people, you can do it in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah.
But a short period of time is a year.
A year.
Basically.
Yeah.
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 A lot of the really large events need about a 2-year window to
I
start
would say,
playing.
yeah. And why is it? Why is that? Where does the complexity lie? What's the hardest thing to do when you're planning an event?
Well, for an event that you're wanting to invite very specific people, and then they have schedules that they're on, and you have to kind of try and figure
Artists, you're talking about artists
and,
who will
different
show at the event.
visual musicians and
Okay.
performers, and if you're going after the top tier, they're in high demand everywhere. So many times you have to at least have a year's notice before
Mhm.
they can commit themselves.
People,
Right.
they host these events outdoors, indoors. How challenging is it to find the right location? Or how important is it?
Well, if you do an outdoor show and you're in Palm Springs, you probably luck out, But
Right.
if you do an outdoor show in the monsoon season in Indonesia,
Yeah.
you're going to have trouble, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, depending on geographical, you might want to have indoor events rather than the outdoor events.
Right.
And you need a large enough venue to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And
What type of facilities do you need in a venue?
well, probably the community centers or the ones where the skating rinks that they make into the Mayfair kind of projects they
Cultural
do.
centers.
Cultural centers.
Yeah.
Any of the larger arenas, if they have small arenas, not the major arenas,
Mhm.
but the smaller arenas would work very well.
Is it beneficial to attract a large volume of people to the show, or are you looking for a very specific type of buyer and an art aficionado?
Well, I think you need both, and I think you won't exist without both.
Okay, why?
And,
Why both?
Well, you need the mainstay people that are into the arts themselves, and they do purchase arts and they get involved. And you need those to make it sustaining financially, and then you need the other part of the population that necessarily doesn't collect, but may become a new person to get involved in the arts. And once they're there, they get in the mood, they feel it. Maybe the next year they come back and they go to a music review somewhere, they buy a painting. It's hard to really understand the arts because a lot of it's very personal. And a lot of things that are done in the arts communities all over the world, the people that really understand it and sense it and come to these events always know somebody. It's not sort of
Right.
nothing exists in the vacuum, but if you can bring in enough talent in one area, people will come to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you need the best of the best, at least as a standard, and then you can bring in all the rest of the things around these events, and they'll all work together.
Mm-hmm. My expertise is marketing and promotion, and I think one of the important things that we're starting to develop now is more of a social media presence. So we're reaching out very quickly around the world through the Facebook account, through blogs, the website, and Twitter. Whether or not you're an amateur or a pro, we're all talking in the same arena. We're trading information. We're trading information with the big galleries in New York City. We're trading information with the small galleries in local communities. It's opened up a whole different world. We can speak many different languages too. We can go to Russia, China, Saudi Arabia. There's a whole host of people that have opened up because of social media. The people in Puerto Rico, for example, they just put an event together recently, and they can easily reach out in their small community and talk to people in Canada or New York City or Paris around the world. So
In some aspects, it's a level playing field,
it's leveled the playing field, yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
And then again, it's what you do after that. But the initial awareness of things is basically, that's what's changed in social marketing.
Yeah.
Where, years ago, even International Artist Day, without the internet, this would have taken 50 years,
You're right.
where we're here in 10 years.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, it's over. The IAD is over 10 years old now. It's 11 years old. Where do you see the IAD in 10 years from now and in another decade?
Well, it's worldwide at the moment, but that doesn't mean everybody in the world knows about it.
Of course, not yet.
Well,
Soon.
not yet, but over the next 10 years, the doubling cube, as we know what happens, and every year it's kind of a doubling cube that starts to take place.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be basically a day that everybody will know about. And it'll be
Mhm.
the same as Mother's Day or Father's Day or what are the other days that other countries celebrate, but it'll be as known as that.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I look at the web now, I'm seeing another calendar company put it on their calendar. And so it'll be mainstream, and hopefully, and that's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, then we can really start to work with people and promote really great ideas to do with art and artists.
Exactly.